Tomorrow morning, before you are even fully awake, you will obey an order that is almost 100 years old. You will walk into your kitchen, you will eat, and you will be certain it was your own idea. It wasn't. The belief that you must eat the moment you open your eyes, that skipping the morning meal is reckless, that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, did not rise up out of your biology. It was not handed down by a doctor watching over your health. It was written in a boardroom. It was sold to you on purpose by men who needed you to buy something. And the strangest part of this entire story is how completely, how silently it worked. So where did it actually come from? To find the answer, you have to travel back to a time before the cereal aisle existed. For most of human history, breakfast was not sacred. It was not even guaranteed. Your ancestors woke up and they worked, they hunted, they gathered, they walked, often for hours, with nothing in their stomachs. Food came when food was found. The body was built for this. It carried fuel through the night and released it slowly in the morning, keeping you sharp and alert precisely when you needed to go out and find your next meal. A hungry morning was not a crisis, it was the default state of being human. Then, in the late 1800s, something shifted. Not in the human body, in American business. In the town of Battle Creek, Michigan, a physician named John Harvey Kellogg was running a health retreat called the Battle Creek Sanitarium. Kellogg had strong, strange beliefs about food and the human appetite. He wanted a bland, simple grain product that he could feed to his patients every morning. Out of that obsession came a flaked cereal. It was cheap to produce, it lasted for months on a shelf, and it could be sold in a box to every household in the country. There was only one problem. To build an empire on a breakfast food, you first needed a nation that believed breakfast mattered. So the industry set out to manufacture that belief. This is where the story stops being about food and starts being about persuasion. Because the man who would truly cement breakfast into the modern mind was not a nutritionist at all. His name was Edward Bernays, and he is often called the father of public relations. Bernays was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, and he took his uncle's ideas about the hidden human mind and turned them into a weapon for selling products. He did not try to convince you with facts. He went underneath your reasoning to the place where you simply trust. In the 1920s, Bernays was hired by a company that sold bacon. The company wanted Americans to eat a bigger, heavier morning meal because a bigger meal meant more bacon sold. A direct advertisement saying "eat more bacon" would have been ignored. So Bernays did something far more clever. He went to a physician and asked a simple question. Would a hearty breakfast be better for the body than a light one? The physician agreed that it likely would. Then, Bernays asked that doctor to write to thousands of other doctors asking the same question. Thousands of them agreed. And so the newspapers did not run an advertisement, they ran a story. Thousands of physicians now recommend a hearty breakfast. Bacon and eggs, the doctors say, is the way to start your day. It did not read like marketing, it read like medicine. It read like truth. And the public swallowed it whole, because it came wrapped in the white coat of science rather than the loud voice of a salesman. Do you see what happened there? Nobody lied to you outright. They simply arranged the truth so that you would arrive at the conclusion they had already chosen for you. Over the following decades, the message hardened into something that felt like ancient wisdom. Cereal boxes printed it, magazines repeated it, schools taught it to children. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. The phrase was everywhere, and because it was everywhere, it felt eternal, as though humans had always known it. But it had not come from a laboratory or a long study of the human body. It had come from companies that made more money the more convinced you became. And here is the question almost nobody stops to ask. If breakfast truly is the most important meal of the day, where is the evidence? Where is the careful, controlled science that proves your body breaks down without it? For most of the 20th century, that evidence did not really exist. The claim was simply repeated so many times that it stopped needing proof. But in recent years, scientists have finally gone looking, and what they have found does not match the story you were told. At the University of Bath in England, a researcher named James Betts ran a series of controlled experiments now known as the Bath Breakfast Project. He took ordinary adults and split them into two groups. One group ate breakfast every morning, the other fasted until midday. Then he measured what actually happened inside their bodies. The popular belief predicted a clear winner. Breakfast eaters should have burned more energy, controlled their hunger better, stayed leaner. That is what the cereal boxes had promised for a century. That is not what Betts found. The breakfast eaters did not lose more weight. Their metabolism did not fire up in some special way. In fact, the people who ate breakfast simply took in more total calories across the day, while the people who skipped it did not go on to overeat later to make up for it. The morning meal was not a metabolic master switch, it was just more food. Other scientists found the same thing. In 2019, a large review of clinical trials was published in the British Medical Journal, led by researchers including Catherine Sievert, examining whether eating breakfast actually helps with weight. The conclusion was blunt. There was no good evidence that adding breakfast was an effective strategy for losing weight, and no good evidence that skipping it caused people to eat dangerously more for the rest of the day. The single most repeated nutritional command of the modern age was, under careful examination, simply not holding up. Now, this does not mean breakfast is poison. It does not mean you must never eat in the morning. Some people feel genuinely better with food early, and that matters. The point is subtler and far more unsettling. The point is that the iron rule you were handed, the absolute claim that this one meal stands above all others, was never built on your biology in the first place. It was built on bacon. It was built on cereal. It was built on the quiet genius of a man who understood that the easiest way to control a person is to let them believe they were never controlled at all. Think about what that means for everything else on your plate. If the most basic instruction about how you eat, repeated to you since childhood, turns out to be a marketing slogan in disguise, how many other certainties have the same origin? How much of what you call common sense about food was actually written by the people who profit when you obey it? This is the deeper pattern, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Your ancestors did not need a slogan to tell them when to eat. They listened to a far older signal, one written into the body across millions of years. Hunger, real hunger, was the guide. Not a clock, not a box, not a headline arranged by a publicist in 1920-something. They ate whole food when their bodies called for it, and they let the morning hours stay quiet when they did not. That instinct still lives inside you. It has simply been buried under a century of advertising so effective that you mistook it for instinct itself. If you want to climb out of that engineered way of eating and return to food the way the human body actually evolved to recognize it, that is exactly why the Ancestral Kitchen Bible exists. It is filled with over 100 clean, whole, historical recipes built around real ingredients, the kind of food your body knows without being told. Completely free of corporate slogans and shelf-stable filler. You can claim your copy through the link in the description right now, and if you use the code 2026 at checkout, you will receive an exclusive 50% discount. Because here is the truth that the boardroom never wanted you to reach. Tomorrow morning, before you are even fully awake, you can finally stop obeying an order that was never yours to begin with. You can walk into your kitchen. You can listen to your body instead of a slogan. And for the first time, the choice will actually be your own.